Of it is that you have or should have, like said by law, nurses in every school. That means essential health personnel working with essential academic staff. Okay? So if I bring the technology, it can be readily given to youth corps members because they have the requisite training and they are well situated in schools, and also nurses as well that they are supposed to be situated in schools. So to start off, first things we're going to do is show you things, breaking things down in granular phase. So right now, we are on the sensitization phase, which is going to schools or going to every place of curiosity and learning where they can learn about this asymmetrical biotargeting of mosquitoes. And we use virtual reality for that. Furthermore, virtual reality would be of use to health personnel, nurses in these schools, as a way to either, I would say, investigate or mitigate the use and abuse of addictive narcotics, hard substance, that is on the rise, especially in our public schools. So we're going to break that down because we'll use virtual reality on that dual purpose. The first phase is, of course, as a sensitization for dealing with annihilating mosquitoes with plants in a sustainable way, and also showing you how they can be helpful dealing with narcotics and hard drug abuse for young delinquent children. And afterwards, I'll have one of the corps members at least explain a very important arm, which is the use of pyrethrin gotten from the chrysanthemum flower, to express how it deals or it can get rid of mosquitoes. So first, we'll do a little bit of practice. This place is jam-packed. Please just cooperate with us. I would just want to have 3 volunteers. Make it closer. This is called a VR viewer, which simply means virtual reality viewer. So it's almost similar to what you're seeing these European kids observing. Virtual reality is pretty popular these days, if you notice, but mostly for recreational reasons. You can have a simulated experience where it seems like you travel somewhere. Okay? Now, it really was kind of created in Japan a long time ago. So this is almost like the skeletal level of virtual reality. Not complicated at all. Now what she saw here, or what they observed here, was a 3D image of mosquito eggs in its habitat, which is, in 3D, is electron microscopy. Now we all know that most of the microscopes that we have in secondary schools are the first level or first generation, which is light microscope, either LED or mirror. Most of us, it has to take until we get into university or maybe higher learning colleges like this that we will see electron microscopy. So electron microscopy literally in this paper, and everybody can experience it. So very, very cogent that with this, we can take it literally to primary 1. And they can have a glimpse of electron microscopy that is only reserved in Nigeria for, say, university level. So that's very important because when we deal with mosquito eggs, where we dwell on first, we want to show mosquito eggs in their habitat because this is where they get rid of in Japan. That's one part. But another useful part of this VR viewer that I got being in Japan is the Japanese police, they have this with them, okay? And it's not, they are not playing with it, it's for real serious business. Narcotics consumption in Nigeria is very criminalized, extremely criminalized. If you are caught using or even with drugs, it's almost like an offense, a criminal offense. But now, if you have minors, people under 18, caught with drugs or using drugs, it's very difficult for you to sort of like investigate them and charge them for a crime, okay? Now, if you are a nurse and you are working in the sick bay in schools that has young adults or teenagers that, because of, how will I put it, secular lifestyle, Afrobeat, is it Amapiano or Achapiano these days, all the influences, they might be drawn to either want to experiment with drugs that are street lingo of, loud, colos. The way some of people who are moving, it's not like I'm giving you an idea of what you will do after this session. So, Colorado, one other street lingo. Now, if they use it, how do you know? Because if any person uses it, the person might be in denial. So, what they do is, in case maybe you're in Japan and you use a particular narcotic and now you're under the influence, it's very difficult for someone to admit that, yes, we took this drug or not. So, through this, what happens is that what you guys saw here was a picture, a 3D picture of somebody. Okay? So what would happen is, in case maybe the law enforcement gets you there, they will get you to sweep your head from this side to this side and back and forward, and then get you to observe it. Immediately you set your eyes, if at all you have drugs in your system. Okay, because when drugs are in your system, neurologically you are in a mess, your oxytocin, your dopamine, your serotonin, they have killed all the synapses in your brain, and so the weight of your head is so much that if you now put it forward in your prefrontal cortex here, all of a sudden this picture will seem magnified and you'll be scared and you pull back. There's always this kind of recoil. So it's very easy, in a humane way, that they can catch you and say, okay, you've taken something and there's something in your system. Now also remember, most kids who might have consumed hard drugs might not do it knowingly. Maybe their drinks were spiked or something of that sort. So this is a very humane way that you can investigate or deal with narcotics abuse in schools, where you have lots of young, delinquent or very active kids that might want to engage in a little bit of social vices. And since it's humane and clean, it's not very judgmental and it's not very extrajudicial. And so that way you have the kids can now be a lot more open and say, maybe they took it or not. So this is a very clinical way to get it done. And the way we're trying to explain this is what we got the nurses who came forward with this, where if you have a box like this and you concentrate on what is in between both objects, all of a sudden the objects will fuse together, because focal vision is the way we were anthropologically created to just put things inside focal vision. Also, if you are under the influence of narcotics, immediately this happens, that fusion, the milliseconds of that fusion will look like something dramatic and you will flinch as well. So these are very simple, methodical ways that they can use to investigate kids that consume narcotics. So that's the presentation we have is clearly just the same way you guys will have a pen or a stethoscope, you can easily slot this into one of your back pockets and go to any school, or if you're a resident in any school, and help dealing with the kids in case they have a problem or in case there's a rare problem of somebody consuming narcotics. So that's that about me explaining using this version of virtual reality for the benefit of you health personnel when you are going to be in public schools. So I believe that's all for this my session. Q&A will be afterwards. So let me have him at least explain this spirit tree.
In warding off mosquitoes. It actually plays a crucial role because we come to understand that in our society today, mosquito is really, really endemic. True of us. Most of us have been bitten by mosquito, even overnight, just last night. You can even see some of the marks, some of the traces on your skin. But if you have this particular plant called chrysanthemum, plant, she will help you to see what the plant looks like. You can see that's a pictorial representation of the plant I'm talking about. Now this plant is insecticidal. That means it has a chemical that wards off mosquito. And if there is any mosquito that comes in close contact with this particular plant, the mosquito literally dies. Why? Because of the chemical substance called pyrethrin. Now this pyrethrin, as you can see, has a structure called the cyclopentane core. This is the cyclopentane core, and this is the major active ingredient in this particular plant. Naturally, organic. There is no synthetic chemical involved here. It's purely organic. And how does it actually ward off mosquito? This chemical called pyrethrin, like I said before, has a cyclopentane core, and that core is highly suicidal to insects, especially mosquitoes. What kind of mosquitoes? You and I know that mosquitoes are of different types. We have the female anopheles mosquito, right? That is the major mosquito that wreaks havoc, true of us. Okay, and that's the particular mosquito that serves as a vector to the transmission of Plasmodium falciparum. And we also have some other types of mosquitoes, like the Colex mosquito. Have you heard about the Colex? Yes. How about Aedes aegypti? Yes. Okay, so these are mosquitoes that we know, but mostly Anopheles is the most dangerous one because it actually transmits Plasmodium falciparum, which is purely malaria. That of the Colex actually transmits Nile fever. Aedes aegypti actually transmits dengue. Have you heard about dengue? Yes. Dengue and Zika virus. So these are diseases that have been transmitted by mosquitoes. So we must look for a more reasonable and eco-friendly way of warding off these insects, and that's how this plant comes into focus. So chrysanthemum this pyrethrin is actually embedded in chrysanthemum. So once this pyrethrin is extracted from that plant, it can be modified to naturally ward off mosquito. Even if you don't maybe pulverize it by maybe putting it in little granules, grinding them together to form a powder, you can actually get the plants and plant them right in your surrounding. It is not too far. It is true that it got its origin from East Asia, China, Japan. That is one of the ways that they have naturally used to eradicate mosquitoes right in the environment, as Mr. Ojong once said during his time. So if we should have this plant cultivated around our surrounding, that's a more proven and sustainable way of eradicating mosquitoes. So let's leave the aspect of the plant and then delve straight into how it actually kills the mosquito. So a mosquito inhales the chemical when it passes through the abdomen of the mosquito. So let's assume that the mosquito gets in contact with this plant, and of course mosquito breathes in oxygen. So when the mosquito takes in oxygen, find out that this particular chemical is also aspirated alongside with the oxygen. So what happens? Pyrethrin, once it's been inspired from the mosquito, it crosses the sodium channels in the abdomen of the mosquito. I don't know, have you heard about sodium channels, sodium ether channels? Neurophysiology. This is where we talk about neuronal signaling, the way our human body interacts with chemicals. For our body parts to actually move, there must be an integration of neurons, a communication of neurons. Is that new? No. Have you heard about serotonin? Yes. Okay, have you heard about acetylcholine? Yes. Now, these chemicals are actually called neurotransmitters, true of course. Okay, so now, these insects also have some communicative pathways to that this pyrethrin, once it's inhaled or inspired by this insect, it gets obstructed. It tries to disrupt the neuronal signaling of this particular plant, thereby making this mosquito paralyzed. Of course, paralysis today, you and I understand that paralysis is mostly a situation whereby there is a defect in maybe one part of the human body as a result of problems in neuronal communication, true of us. So what happens next? This leads to a poor combustion of air intake, oxygen capture, and harmful air retention in the mosquito's abdomen. Yeah, it causes the sensation similar to asphyxiation. We don't know what asphyxiation is. Do we know? Yes. Okay, when there is a redundancy in the available oxygen in the environment, right? So the same thing is happening in this phase. And you find out that the mosquito keeps fighting for its their life. And it causes the sensation similar to asphyxiation and unevenly increases the weight of the mosquito. So the mosquito keeps fighting frantically, and then it gives up and then falls down. And that is the beginning of the sequence of death. The bloated abdomen immobilizes the mosquito, it causes exhaustion, and then eventually kills the mosquito. But during that frantic battle between the mosquito and this chemical, you find out that it is frantically flapping its wings. That actually sends a certain form of frequency to other mosquitoes that are in the same environment. It's actually infrasonic, so it's not something that you can actually pick up. But some other mosquitoes that are within that same zone hears the same frantic battle between the chemical and the mosquito, and then it sends a signal to them. So most of them decide to leave that horizon and then move to somewhere far off from this particular chemical. So that's eventually a more sustainable and organic way of warding off mosquitoes. We are really tired of the chemicals that we have in our surroundings today. The insecticide aerosol containers that you usually get today in form of fleeting your room, you find out that most of them are seriously hazardous. You get that? Because they have some harmful toxic chemicals that most of them, we call them DEET. It's a very important chemical, synthetic chemical used today, but seriously, it wreaks serious havoc, not just to the plants, to the mosquito, but as human beings as well, including lower mammals. So there is a more needed urgency of using a more organic and sustainable methodology of warding off this mosquito. How does this apply to the Sustainable Development Goal? Have you heard about SDG? Yes. So SDG is goals that has actually been adopted and created by the United Nations in a bid to make our world a better place by, I think the target is 2030. So before 2030, we are looking at about 17 goals. We know that there are about 17 goals there, right? So now this chrysanthemum flower comes into focus when it comes to sustainability because it helps to satisfy some of those goals. I think we have 17 goals there, like I mentioned, and it satisfies about 3 goals. Goal number 3, goal number 12, and goal number 15. Let me see that chart again. So that's how we showcase the goals. Now this is the chart that conveys the SDG goals. And I talked about chrysanthemum satisfying goal number 3, goal number 12, and goal number 15. So the first goal is good health and well-being. How does this plant satisfy good health and well-being? You find out that at the end of the day, when you have these plants maybe cultivated in your surrounding, or maybe you have a granulated powder form of it, you can actually use it to satisfy this good health and well-being, because at the end of the day, you find out that you've completely warded off some mosquitoes in your environment. You find out that mosquitoes are no longer in your environment and there is no way you get infected by malaria. That's good health, true of us. Because when there is absence of malaria, at least good health is sustained, true of us. Alright, so that takes us to the 12th sustainable goal, which is responsible consumption and production. Okay. Now, responsible production and responsible consumption and production. When you actually use these synthetic chemicals you have available to just try and ward off mosquitoes, you find out that some other mammals are also affected. You get some other insects that are ecological, that have some ecological advantage, are also affected. But if you should use chrysanthemum, you find out that chrysanthemum is mostly targeted to insects that are more pathologic, because they convey malaria. So you find out that if you should use this plant, it's in a better position of warding off insects that are like pests, but leaving other insects that are very important in our environment, because most insects are not all dangerous. Most of them actually are active in pollination. We know about pollination, true of us. So if you should use this is more safe, and it's more advantageous. Now the last one is life and land. Yes, this particular plant satisfies SDG 15 because it improves life on land and our habitat. Thank you very much.
What if we consume them? Do they have any damage to our ecosystem?
It happens when the mosquito doesn't like perch on the plant because mosquitoes are flying everywhere and then the plant is just maybe at the side of the fence or whatever. So what happens if the mosquito doesn't perch on the plant? Because that's the only contact that will affect the mosquito.
I was asking if we can find this plant in this environment.
Okay.
That if we plant it in the environment, maybe the compound, can we equally have a flag verse in the house to like maybe have it that we are now trying to protect or eliminate the mosquito in the house aside the environment as a compound? Thank you very much.
Mountainous regions there in East Africa. So the last part, you were probably, but you were trying to say if you can grow the plants indoors. Yes, you can grow the plant indoors, but remember, I gave you places that have specific temperature and humidity. So you have to make sure that indoors is very air conditioned. Okay, look, I'm sweating here, man. The plant is not going to survive here. Do you understand? So it has to be in a place that is aerated, of a certain temperature, a certain pH level. If I go on the road and call it out and say, yes, spiritry, use it, what do you think is going to happen? The person wouldn't care, will throw it away. Remember, there was a very extensive research made by WHO concerning mosquito nets. People do not use mosquito nets. They had to whittle it down to the exact people that use mosquito nets. And who are they? Nursing mothers. Because they are consenting adults. They need the mosquito nets so that they can take care of their babies. So now they are responsible to using the mosquito net adequately. So in the same way, if I come and give the purity to any Tom, Jack, and whoever, chances are the person will not apply it compared to people who are in the professional field of delivering health or at least delivering a little bit of proprietary care to young kids, teachers or nurses. So I believe sickbays and schools are the precise place for bringing either the knowledge, the technology, and also the
Tell us about this training, like the overall concept of the training. What does it hope to achieve?
All right, so to begin with, the name of the sensitization is on geometrical virtual reality realism for sovereignty test. It is mostly targeted because of the nature of the circumstances now in our society when underage individuals normally abuse narcotics and drugs, as it were, even alcohol abuse is also on the high level. So we are looking for a more advanced methodology of addressing this menace by using virtual reality technology to actually ascertain people that have or are abusing substance. And so that's one aspect of our sensitizations today. And the other one deals with mosquitoes. We also understand the fact that in environments today, we find that there is mosquito menace. It's really a pandemic in Nigeria, Cross Rivers as a case study. So we are looking at ways to actually control the mosquito that is endemic, using organic materials. So that's where the chemical pyrethrin comes in. Pyrethrin is actually an extract from chrysanthemum flower, and mostly it has its origin from Asia. But the major concept of our discussion here is how to imbibe this organic plant and then modify it to put it to good use in eradicating mosquitoes here in Cross River State.
Amazing. So I believe there must have been a lot of challenges. I mean, why try to organize this training? Can you tell us some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, the challenges are expected and they are not that much. Where we had to do some little bureaucratic process of trying to get the attention of the Calabar nursing students, especially the provost of the school and the proprietress. So we achieved that through series of letter writing, and at least we got a response finally after some days. So I think that's one of the biggest of them all. If not, the logistic problems are under control.
Amazing. So, can you briefly tell us about the motivation behind the training? I mean, there must be something that you saw that motivated you to organize this kind of training.
All right. So, this training is timely because of the fact that we live in a society where a lot of things happen. When it comes to the aspect of drug abuse and alcoholism, it's also on a high level, based maybe partly because of the circumstances Nigeria is facing, hardship, and a lot of individuals are looking out for easier ways of maybe getting themselves together, as it were. So, if I want to use this medium to educate the nursing students on how to easily identify such kind of individuals and help them out using uh, cutting edge technology, that is virtual reality.
Your experience about the training, can you tell us if the moss plant is harmful to humans? Like, can we eat it?
Okay, the mom's plant is not harmful to human. It's the phytochemical component that contains in the mops plant is not harmful at all to the human. You can actually eat it. A child can just pick it up and feed on it and nothing happens. So it's not harmful. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for it. This our sensitization to schools about this mom plant is very much important because as we can see, all these are mothers in the marketplace doing their business. You cannot just go to a woman that is just thinking about how you sell a market and start telling her about mom's plans. You should be like, please, are you buying from me or you can just go away. But if we could go to schools, tell the children, the children are more enlightened, they are more educated, and we introduce this plan to them, they'll be able to go back home and educate their parents and tell them that, oh, mom, we use this thing, this is a flower we showed us, because this is the plant that they can see around, in a very ecosystem.
All right, so what would you say about your experience about the training? Did you learn anything? Was it worth the time for you?
Yes, it was actually nice. I enjoyed it. It was cool. I learned a lot. Some things I've not heard before. It was actually nice. It was really educating.
So what would you say to the trainers?
I would say a big job, work well